All right, I'm here with actor Marcus Coloma. This is first interview back after the pandemic. I can't believe it's been a long 3 years.
Very long.
But it's nice to be back in person with people.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the genesis of your acting career. When did you first decide you wanted to be an actor? Like, how did you pursue it after that?
Yeah, so, I always had little ideas that I wanted to be a performer in some sense, like even as a little kid. But I lived in such a small town, it didn't feel like a possible thing. So I just kind of backshelved it until I was 18 years old. And I was on the phone with this girl that I was like madly in love with. And I missed a chemistry midterm because of this conversation. And as a result, I went from an A to a C in this. It was just a junior college, but I was still very, I guess I'm a perfectionist, and that was enough for me to drop out of college.
Was there at least chemistry with the person you were talking to since you bombed the chemistry?
Funnily enough, and this has happened to me several times, where you're like, this is my soulmate.
Yeah.
At the time, I thought it was my soulmate. There was so much chemistry. We just we talked from I want to say 8 o'clock till maybe 5 in the morning or something like that, And anyway, dropped out of the class. I moved back home, which is always a little bit embarrassing. I think I was 17 at that time, and I watched movies all day long. It would just be Lethal Weapon was a huge one that I was watching. I'd watch about 3 movies a day. And my uncle is a very successful guy. So I called him up and I was like, hey, what do you think? Because I was a little bit lost. And he said, entertainment and computers will never die. And I was interested in computers, but I think it was just enough for me to be like, okay, entertainment. And just moved down to LA. Stayed the first night in my car until my uncle was able to hook me up with an old business associate that he had, and she let me crash on her floor for a couple of months while I did an acting class. And it was just very spontaneous. It was very much there's not really anything else that's calling me right now, and this presented itself. And then I fell in love with it. I fell in love with more than acting, just the communication aspect of it. I would get really shy around people, and I liked working on human behavior, what makes people tick, why do people do certain things. That ended up just being a very important spiritual journey for me, I think, more than acting. And it continues to be that way because it forces you to look at why would somebody do that, and to develop compassion for it, and what is truth, and is truth consistent or does it change? Because a truth for one person might be different. It seems like truth is almost relative, So it's just been a very interesting journey but that's the genesis of it. A little bit of heartbreak and a little bit of what else?
People may not even realize, because you really gained a lot of popularity from being on General Hospital, but you've been in the industry since the early 2000s, right? 2005?
Yeah. I think my first job was probably, I did an MTV show called Undressed with Adam Brody. Me and him, that's where we met each other. And that was 2000 and something, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And I've done a couple of things here and there, but South Beach was 2005. That was probably my biggest job. That was a series regular, Jennifer Lopez producing it. That was a game changer for sure.
What was that first experience like, being on such a high-profile show, backed with other high-profile, talent, both behind and in front of the cameras?
Yeah, it was,
Was there nerves involved?
Unfortunately, there weren't nerves involved, and I wish there were more nerves involved. But I think I've been pursuing it for so long, and that's kind of the dream, is a series regular role, right? And I've been thinking about this a lot recently, because I think as you get older, sometimes you can forget to have goals and to dream. And it was such an important thing when I was younger, is to kind of have this goal and to work towards this goal. And so I really got into a place where I was so focused on that specific character before the audition even happened. I wanted to play a guy from New York who was an aspiring architect, and I was working on it. And then sure enough, this audition comes along, and it's exactly that. And the audition was grueling. It was like 2 or 3 months of callbacks, and they like you, but you've never really led a show, and this is a series lead, and they would go audition a bunch of other guys and then call me back and then have me read for a different role. That by the time I actually got the job, I was so I'd done it so many times that I was like ready to roll. Then they recast a lot of the people, like almost half of the cast.
Post-pilot filming or?
Post-pilot filming. And when we went back, why I say I wish I had more nerves is I think it was a weird sensation of I'd already done it. I'd already filmed the scenes. And I think if there were more nerves, I would have treated it with a little bit more due diligence that it needed. Where I felt like I was a little bit kind of like, I'm done. I've already done this.
Yeah. Was it sounds like more, it was confidence, not ego. It was more confidence based.
It was confidence, not ego based. Yeah, no, it was more like I've done this show a lot. I've done this particular scene, which was like the 2 big scenes. I'd probably done them like 40 times in front of producers and networks, different actors, different actresses. Filmed it, then filmed it again, and one of the really big scenes we ended up shooting at like 6 a.m. in the morning because we had shot. It was like a 24-hour day. It was insane. I don't know if it was exactly 24 hours, but we had to hurry up because the sun was coming up. Which normally you have to hurry up because the sun's going
down. Yeah.
That it was more of just kind of a like. It was like just not a deer in the headlights, but just kind of like almost no time to think about it, you know? And I'd done it so many times that I just felt comfortable, I guess, with it. But what I like about that uncomfortability, that was probably a very different performance the first audition I had, is when you're nervous, the stakes are so high. It's one of the things I love about soap operas, is you get 1 to 2 takes. So it's very fresh and alive, even though the risk of that is you can make more mistakes and maybe you didn't do exactly what you wanted to do. I really like that spontaneous aliveness more than over-rehearsed, over-prepared. And I think it's one of the challenges of TV and movies. Like right after I shot the pilot of that, I did Material Girls with Hilary Duff, which was 2 pages a day. We were filming on that pilot. I was in 14 pages a day, which was insane. Yeah. But it's great. And then soap operas is obviously, you do even more than that. I don't even know what it is, but it's a lot more than that. So that there's a different challenge in that. So for example, in movies, it's like you're so over-rehearsed. And it blows me away when you see, I've heard even like Tom Hanks talk about this, where you got to be able to cry or make people laugh, and it's 3 a.m. and you're tired and no one cares. It's just like, so yeah, anyway. There weren't as many nerves as an excitement to be there and a very surreal feeling of like, I knew it was going to happen. And I think it's like General Hospital was the same. I knew it was really, there's this weird thing that I feel like probably happens with most actors is there's almost like a manifest destiny type of thing that happens because it's an impossible industry. It's totally impossible. And sometimes it just clicks, but I feel like when it clicks, it's not the stars aligning, it's like you're prepared for it, you're in a good place, and the right role comes along at the right time. And so to me, it's not really a nerves thing as much as it just clicks.
When the show was canceled, did it feel like a hit to wanting to still be an actor, or you just knew like this is the nature of the beast, it's going to happen? I had a good run.
Yeah, so one of the things I was struggling with on that show is it was shooting in Miami and in Florida. And I had gotten in a zone in LA at that time. Like, I went to a certain gym, followed by a certain course, followed by a certain acting class. Like, it was just like, and that was a huge reason for my success. Outside of LA, I was struggling to find that in Miami, and because I was the lead of that show, I attribute to the reason why that show got canceled is because I felt like at that age, I didn't know how to recalibrate. And so I wasn't doing any of the things that I normally did that kind of kept me in that zone.
Yeah.
Because also, you know, I was working probably like 8 to 14 hours a day. So and in every scene, it was really kind of hard to, I guess, get in that zone, stay in that space. So that's kind of, when it fell apart, I kind of knew it was coming because, again, just like you know when success is about to happen, I think you kind of know when failure is about to happen.
Yeah.
And if I could do it again, I think that show probably would have lasted longer because I know what I know now, which is the importance of everybody's part, including my own, in keeping a show going. And especially when you're the number one, the lead guy, you have to be so focused. I remember when I did Lucifer, like I just did a guest star and I was talking to, I'm blanking on his name.
Tom Ellis?
Tom Ellis. And he was like, because I was like, man, this is amazing. Like, you're on a successful show, you're number one. He was like, you know, I didn't realize how much hard work it takes. And that's the thing that I didn't realize as a 26-year-old guy, is so many things are just in place. And you got to realize that that's just when the hard work begins. But it's hard because what does that mean? It's not like there's an acting class that teaches you, when we say hard work, this is what we mean. Because it's a bunch of factors. It's not just what you're bringing as an actor. There's a bunch of factors. Yeah.
Did you find it harder to be the lead than an ensemble where you didn't feel like the whole show was riding on your back?
I think it would have been amazing. So ironically, I think I got offered General Hospital, but you know, things are phasey because this was when I was 26. I got offered a role, and I don't know what the role was because it's never the real character.
Yeah.
And I turned it down because, like I said, I was feeling very confident that big stuff was going to come. And it did come. Like, I got a series lead in the show, and while that pilot finished, I booked a role with Hillary. Like, it was a good time. But in hindsight, I go, like, the benefit of doing a soap opera is I could have... You watch the lead actor and how they roll, whereas I kind of I hadn't worked a ton before that, a little bit, but I think it would have been good to do ensemble to start out with that.
Yeah.
And get to see how you do that job. And I had friends that, like Adam Brody, for example, blew up on the OC. But you know, he just naturally got it. Like, there was an understanding of it. But he was also, I guess, part of I would say that was an ensemble cast. So yeah, I think it'd be great to be a part of any show in any capacity, but especially as a younger guy, I think it would have been helpful and beneficial to be not number one.
When you dipped into film, did that give you more of an appetite to pursue film, or did you want to do all of it?
Yeah, it's interesting because so Material Girls bombed, and that was heartbreaking. Because no project you're a part of does it ever feel like it's gonna bomb. Like, everybody is genuinely doing their best. And I remember going to the theater, and every job feels like it's gonna be your big break.
Yeah.
And there were like 6 people in the theater. It got like
5 of you were in the cast.
Yeah, exactly. It got like 6% on Rotten Tomatoes. It just bombed. And I get why it bombed. It was... Now, that was a particular experience, and I learned a lot from that. Another film I did was Beverly Hills 2, right? And that was a whole different experience. That almost felt like a TV show because we shot it so fast. We shot that thing in like, I want to say 4 weeks. That the line between film and TV these days are a lot more blurry than I think they used to be. And I don't think I've done the movie yet that, as much fun as I've had, and Beverly Hills 2 was actually surprisingly rewarding because it was so successful. And to this day, I have moms that'll walk up to me and say, like, my daughter has a summer party and we watch this every month. Or kids that are now young adults saying, oh my gosh, I'm blah, 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 blah. The reach that you can get with a successful movie is very cool and exciting, but you can get that now with TV.
And people discover it now more because they're streaming, and different audiences find it all the time.
Yeah, like there's a show called Make It or Break It that felt like kind of a nothing show, but that one, surprisingly, people have been discovering it again and again and again, which is a weird thing, which wasn't like that before. Like you're saying with TV, once it was done, it was done. Maybe you'd catch reruns, but if it wasn't like a hit show,
right,
you're never really seeing it again. Where now people are discovering shows left and right.
I saw an interview with Mark Paul Gosselaar recently. He was talking about Saved by the Bell and how it was only on for 4 years, but people think it ran forever.
Really?
It's like we were canceled every year, and then they kept like, well, why don't we do a movie or something on the beach, or like, and like it just kept going, but it was only on for 4 years. But it feels like because it's been on for so long that it was like 10 years long.
I was so addicted to that show.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I loved that show. They would do contests where if you filled out a 3x5 card, you might be able to win like a trip. I would do that all the time. It's such a big crush on Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
We had different crushes on the show. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah,
she's beautiful.
She is beautiful, and I think it was the only live action show that I was watching. Everything else was cartoons. But, yeah, that's surprising.
Saved by the Bell, California Dreams. That was Saturday mornings.
Yeah, big time, absolutely.
So now, if you look at your projects throughout the years, you've worked consistently, for years. Does it feel that way for you as an actor, or does it feel like, okay, I did a guest star here, I did a guest star there? It seems like I'm in a lot, but like that's only a week of work or whatever. How do you navigate that with people like, oh, well, see, he's so successful, he works every year at least 1 or 2 times?
Yeah, it's the reason why I wanted to do General Hospital. Like that was the reason. Is I just wanted to be on set for more than, like I said, Beverly Hills 2, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I think the third one was even less than that. Material Girls, I think that was like 2 days. So it's a great question, because that is the truth of it. Even though you're working a lot, it doesn't mean that you're working a lot.
Yeah.
And right before I did General Hospital, I shot a national commercial, I shot a pilot, and I think I worked 2 weeks that entire year. And along came General Hospital, and I was like, there's 100 or so episodes a year. Sounds like a great opportunity. And it was. I feel so different about acting now. I feel so grateful for that opportunity to get to work with so many different types of actors. And to get to work that much. I think I ended up doing like 300 and something episodes.
Do you think it made a bigger impact on you having already worked for 10 to 15 years as opposed to booking General Hospital first and then going?
That's a great question. I think, yeah, because I had experienced so many different things, and you really get to watch the process. It's so instantaneous. It's almost like a web series, because you film something and then it's out. And you get to see so many different actors, and you get to watch them and see what comes out and what works and what doesn't work. And despite other challenges, people doing cool stuff. And I don't know if I would have gotten that as a young guy. I think as a young guy, there's this weird entitlement that comes, I think, with the industry that's almost promoted. It's almost taught in acting classes that you want to be, because it's a weird thing. You're constantly having to believe that you are more than you are. If you're an unemployed actor who hasn't worked, but you want to book a really big role, you kind of have to have this mentality of like, I'm a movie star, you know? But there's a reality to a movie star. And it's like from interviews that I've seen of movie stars like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt, or these guys work so hard. And as a younger actor, I didn't appreciate, it's not even that I wasn't willing to, I just didn't know what that meant. Where I think I was able to appreciate that now, being on General Hospital and seeing just how people work and seeing what it means to have, like, you know, part of it is you've got to take care of yourself mentally.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not just memorizing lines, it's like taking a minute to just decompress. And when you're in an emotional state for so many days, it's hard on relationships. Like I definitely went through many breakups while I was on General Hospital, just because you're psychologically.
Absolutely. There's no way to not
place.
take it home with you.
There's no way not to. Now, I think I've gotten a lot better at that now. I think, and that's part of the cool thing about getting to work and confidence and realizing things that you've heard forever, which is, I don't think you have to live in it. I admire people that do that, but I think it's important to kind of have a switch and spend time in that area, and maybe a lot of time in that area, but you do have to pull out of it, you know?
Yeah. Have you found that you've been able to mentor some of the younger actors that you've worked with because you started the way you did? And then, you know, Nikolas comes to mind only because he's very talented and he could go so many places.
I think he is already.
And going to go, he's
I
already
think he
been
is,
casting.
but I don't know, man. I mean, I think the what makes me such, anything I've ever told any younger actor, because I feel like, I don't feel like I mentored necessarily anybody, but I feel like I've given advice, and I think honestly the best advice. But even though this sounds like it might not be very helpful, but I do think it is the best advice, is that just to believe in themselves and to not listen to the other stuff, and to kind of like try to bolster their confidence and belief in themselves, and to that degree, I think it's helpful. And there's certain things that I've been able to tell people, that traps that I've run into, but I don't know what benefit that had on them, and I think that would be a question for those people.
You want to call him? No. The one thing I wanted to ask you, the blessing and the curse of daytime are the fans. The fans are amazing. They will follow you. If they like you, they will follow you till the wheels fall off the bus. The other side of that is that people don't take to you. The loudness can get into your head. How did you navigate being super popular with some and not as popular with others, based on being a recast, based on whatever it was, based on, it could have been anything?
Absolutely.
How do you navigate those challenges of daytime?
There's a couple of things. Like, one, what I've realized is the fans are the star of General Hospital. You know, they've been there longer than anybody else, and they are like incredibly important. And I'm really glad that I did win some people over, and I look at that as a huge feat. I didn't know it was a recast until I was doing it, but the fact that I was to gain any popularity is a huge win for me, because Tyler, to me, was such an incredible actor. I was watching Twilight Zone with my daughter a couple of months ago, and he was in it, and I was like, God, this guy is like such a movie star quality, such a talented actor, such a good-looking guy. And the fact that I was able to even exist in that space, to me, was a huge compliment. And I didn't experience the hate as much as I thought I would, because when I first got there were a couple actors who warned me. They're like, listen, you're gonna get death threats, you're gonna get these things, you're gonna get all of these bad things. And maybe because I was thinking of, so there was one actor who was, she was a recast, and she was like, oh man, told me all these horrible nightmare stories. I didn't get any of that.
Good.
I got tagged in some things, or, you know, there were a lot of polls, obviously. Who's your favorite Nikolas?
Yeah.
Those were always a little bit rough because, you know, but at the same time, they weren't, because I'm aware of the fact that, like, look, Tyler killed it for 20 years. He made that character for 20 years. It's a long time.
But you continued the mantle of the character.
I continued it, and I did my thing with it, and I think that, so for me, it was kind of a win-win.
Good.
Honestly, even again, I never really felt personally attacked on it, and from what I was seeing, there was a lot of support, and you're constantly battling with that struggle internally and externally. Whether it was this role or any other role, you're constantly like, am I good enough? And I think after doing this for so long, I've gotten much better at focusing on the positive stuff.
Yeah.
And doing what I can do.
Hey, and look, that's everybody in their jobs.
Yeah.
You just happen to be in the public spotlight doing
Totally.
it. So it seems more magnified because of that fact. But even the people who are like keyboard warriors go through the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I dealt with that even as a football player. You know what I mean? Like before I was an actor. And I think that's the trick, is you just focus on what you can do, try to improve. I would kind of pay attention to it, and I'd be like, somebody would say something, and I'd be like, that's a good point. I wonder if I could implement that, you know, and use that and kind of tweak the character in this way or that way. But ultimately, I think because I was following somebody's footsteps that I really did admire and was really impressed with, and honestly felt like should have never been recast. I think he owned that role, and I don't know. That's my personal opinion. So that said, the fact that I did gain some people that supported me, I mean, I just looked at that as like a massive win.
You mentioned that you didn't know that you were coming in to play Nikolas.
Yeah.
Was that a shock to you when they're like, oh, hey, you auditioned for this part, but it's actually you're being a recast?
Yeah, I think yes. And the other thing is similar to, I'm so kind of disconnected from the world. Like I don't look at the news. I purposefully stay away from all that stuff. And I didn't really know too much about General Hospital. So I didn't know at all what I was walking into, other than it was a soap opera. And, you know, progressively you start to realize that this is a world, and this is a big world, and this is a successful show. This is the longest running show in America. And I think because I didn't know, it was all pleasantly educational and enlightening. And would it have been cool to not be a recast? Yes. But the benefit of being a recast is you're blessed with so much storyline and so much history. But I never felt right about it because I felt like Tyler created all of that.
That's interesting that you felt the specter over you the whole time.
Always. It was always like, it never felt right because he created this. I get it, the writers did, but the way that works is if you're doing a good job, they give you more storyline. And the fact that he had so much storyline going in so many different directions, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. But at that point, it's too late because you're in.
You said yes, yeah.
You signed a contract.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I personally never.
Contracts work great when you're on the other side of the contract.
Exactly.
When you're the actor side of the contract, it's like every 6 months you can get.
Yeah, and I didn't know the story. I didn't know any of the thing. And then once I actually talked to Tyler and found out what a sweet guy he was, and I really wish that he could have taken that character with him. You know what I mean? The whole way.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
What was something that you got to do on the show that kind of felt like a checkbox of, oh, I did this storyline, it's amazing? What was one thing you wanted to do that didn't end up coming to fruition?
Yeah, so when I kicked the door open in the very early stages, I remember reading that script, and I guess this is more to what you were asking about the nerves. I actually like nerves. I love nerves, and if I don't have nerves, I don't feel quite as alive.
Interesting.
And so I got this scene where Valentine and Nina are getting married, and I kick open the door and I'm carrying Moira West. And that was one that I was very excited about because it made me so nervous. I didn't know most of these people because all of my scenes so far had been with Ingo. There's a whole different format, shot in a whole different way. And the idea of carrying an actress and kicking a door open, just logistically, I was like, can I do that? I don't know.
You don't want to drop her when you're...
Exactly. 100% that was going through my mind. I'm soaking wet.
Yeah.
And I have this big explosive scene and with this guy that I've been talking about. The stakes felt so high in that, and there was no safe place in that. There was no like, oh, I'm just going to quietly mumble this and whisper this and hopefully people will think it's real. It was that, what I love about daytime, and they do this all the time, is it's these larger than life, explosive, emotional scenes. But I had never got to do that. And so that was a very fun, exciting moment and nerve-wracking. And then something that, I would have liked to have had, one of the storylines that never made sense to me was the conflict between Nikolas and Spencer. And I get it, you have to have conflict or there's no drama. But I just felt like it was a weird storyline to have Nikolas so bad as a dad when I just didn't have that worked in any of my storylines or what I'd seen mentally and backstory. So that was one thing that I think answers the latter part of the question of something I didn't fully get, you know?
What kind of emotions went into when you were let go and when you weren't able to film? I know that was one of the things you weren't able to film your last scenes. Did that feel like an abrupter ending? Did you already know your contract wasn't renewed and then you couldn't film your last scenes?
It was a tricky one because I was physically not great at the time. Finally went away, by the way.
You were suffering from long COVID.
I think that's what it was. I saw a guy, and we couldn't determine whether it was either a side effect from the vaccine or if it was long COVID. He thinks it was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And I would basically blank out. So it was interesting because in a way it kind of softened everything. I was a little bit foggy that whole time. In a way, I feel like my acting was better than ever because I was so uninhibited.
Yeah.
And the mind had just been shut off a little bit. And so it was a very weird time feeling like I was doing the best work that I'd ever done.
Yeah.
I felt more comfortable on that set than I'd ever felt. I felt more comfortable on that set than I'd ever felt in anything. And I felt like everything I was doing felt so real because I couldn't actually have more than one thing going on. It was just kind of like, I was like, okay, this is what I can do right now. I knew the contract was coming up, obviously since day one. I knew that I wasn't going to be on the show because the whole intention was to get the experience, to learn. I was very surprised at how much it hurt, like how close I had gotten to certain people on that set, how much I enjoyed the time with certain people on that set. So it was definitely a very mixed emotional time. And I was feeling probably every emotion you could imagine, all of them. And on top of that, dealing with the physical thing, it was very tricky because I was like, am I mentally? Is it like a mental, emotional thing? Like, is it psychosomatic or is it legitimately physical? I think the fact that I got blood work done and that there was confirmation that there was physical stuff going on.
Yeah.
But it was a lot, man. It was a lot. I was surprised at how much it was because it's not like it was, hey, tomorrow. I knew for 3 years.
Yeah.
I knew for 3 years. But it changes so much. You feel a certain way after year 1, you feel a certain way after year 2, and you feel a certain way after year 3. And I was very surprised at the journey that I took on that, and it was awesome in that way. I think that was a really fun chapter that I got to experience a lot of different things. Ultimately, I'm very happy, honestly, to be out of it because I think the curse of that situation is you will always. I never felt right as a recast. It just never felt. I was glad to be out of that situation.
Going into your next role, now the writer's strike and the actor strikes are finally over, what are you looking to do now? You did this soap for 3 years.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I'm sure it's going to be nice to get out and play someone different.
It's going to be so great. I'd love to do like single camera comedy, something light and fun. Sounds awesome. But that said, I would do a drama in a heartbeat. I would do there's what I would want to do and there's what I would do.
Yeah.
What I would do is almost anything.
Yeah.
Because part of the fun of acting is, so for example, there's a character that's a transvestite, right? That came across last week. And I don't think I'm going to get it because there's so many
Layers.
obstacles.
Yeah.
Like English second language on top of, I think right now, if you're going to go that direction, why wouldn't you go that direction with somebody who's lived that?
Right.
Like I feel like if I were a director, I would find somebody who's lived that. But that said, I love the opportunity. It makes me nervous. I remember I auditioned for a movie called Powder where I was a prostitute, and I go to the audition. I'm in a dress and high heels and makeup and a wig, and that made me so uncomfortable. But I enjoyed that uncomfortability so much.
Did it bring out a really great performance because of that?
Horrible performance.
Horrible. Yeah.
Horrible performance, and I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew that because you don't have that kind of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To really do that.
Like do the homework for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a life, man. Like there are people that live that, you know, and so the performance was horrible. I didn't even get a call back, and I knew I wasn't going to. But I like that about this career is that you're constantly. So the point is if it was a horror film, if it was a drama, if it was a comedy, I would do all of it because I like the soap opera. I never thought I would have done a soap opera, but I'm glad that I did because the challenges.
Yeah. Everyone's got to do a horror film and a Law and Order.
That's right. That's right. Like, I think ideally, if it was my choice, it'd be something like Parks and Rec or The Office, something that just feels like an ensemble cast. It seems like a super fun workplace that's positive. That's what I would really be looking forward to right now.
What would you like to say to the fans who are watching this, who miss you on General Hospital, and you're
man.
here in Jersey, you're going to meet some of them today, and
Just, I guess I'll thank you so much for everything and all the support, and you guys really have supported me in everything that I'm doing, even if it's the Instagram series with Ken. The love is definitely appreciated and felt, and I'm just so grateful. Yeah.
all right. Thanks, Marcus. This has been great.
Thanks, man. Thank you.